Welcome to another edition of the Above the Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Thaddeus Park. If this is your first time tuning into our show, please like, subscribe, leave a comment to whatever platform you're listening to or on our YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys taking time out and listening to our show. I also want to invite everyone to a R&B day party that me and DJ Hoppaboy been throwing. It's called Laid Back. It's going to be at Capitol Modern May 24th. Good vibes. We got whiskey smoke with some good food, and you can grab your tickets now. Go to laidbackrnb.com right there and get your tickets. We'll see you May 24th. Aloha. Okay, this week my guest is somebody I've known through the nightlife industry, but growing up through the nightlife industry, I've met her and I'm very, very close with her husband, and I'll talk a little bit about her husband later. But she is doing amazing work for the community and the children of Hawaii's community, and she works for the Hawaii Children's Action Network. Malia Tsuchiya, how are you?
I'm awesome, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me some time and space. This is super
Yeah,
cool. Mahalo.
this is super awesome. Definitely not the normal conversations we have. Usually I'm drunk when I'm talking to you or getting out of trouble or something, but that was back in the day.
Right. Yeah, a lot of blurry conversations, but this one is
Yeah.
recorded and of clear minds. So this will
Yeah, yeah.
this will be fun.
Yeah. Um, what have you been up to? Like just outside of your work stuff, how's life been?
Life is good. Life is good. Kind of complain, right? Kind of complain, like always calling out the blessings, like looking for the silver lining, all the good things. We have 5 kids now.
I
So I
know.
think last time we was together, we only had a couple, but we have 5 now. So that keeps me pretty busy. But the kids are healthy. The storms came through. We are blessed. We weren't impacted. So I'm just thankful. I'm
Yeah.
grateful. Yeah, the kids keep me busy for sure.
So you got teenage daughters, huh?
So we have 5, and then the oldest is 20. Yes, I have a teenage daughter. She's
Huh.
15 now. So
Oh,
the
just
oldest,
like Arya.
yeah, no, same age. Yeah, same. Yeah, same. And so the oldest is 20. That's Maddox, you know that one.
Yeah.
And then the girl is 15. And then I have a 13-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, and a 5-year-old boy. So 20 and 5. So the whole the whole range.
You get all the generations.
Every like preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's raising your 15-year-old right now? Because I'm not saying I'm having some difficulty, but it's definitely not how it was when we was growing up. That's for sure.
It is not. It is not. And raising a 15-year-old girl in modern times takes a lot of work.
Oh
It
yeah.
takes a lot of work, takes a lot of resources, a lot of patience, right? A lot of love. Um, and for me as a mom, like growing up in a different generation, like when I was growing up, we never have Instagram,
Yeah.
and all of this kinds of things, social media and whatnot. And so trying to stay on top of all of that and being mindful about her safety
Yeah.
and mental health, all of those things. Yeah, it takes a lot of work, but we're blessed. I'm willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I'm willing to be wrong and be like,
Oh,
okay, my bad. Like, didn't realize that. And so we're always learning. Like I'm learning from her. She's learning from me. It's back and forth. I try not to like do the power trip too much because then she just won't listen, right? She's like, she doesn't even hear me at that point. So yeah, it's different though, different from raising boys for sure. Um,
yeah.
but just a lot of love and patience and understanding and just trying to like put myself in her shoes, like like everything, like we face challenges, we get disagreements, like, but just trying to put myself in her shoes and kind of see it through her eyes and her lens and then kind
Yeah.
of go from there. So
That's the same. I'm definite. Well, for one, I'm impressed with you saying that you're cool with admitting being wrong, because before you wouldn't do that.
No, 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 no. No, I was
Yeah.
not raised to ever think that my parents were wrong, right? Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or to ask questions, or, like I grew up in the kind of household where, ask questions and like,
Yeah.
why you asking stupid questions or whatever. But, just trying to change that trajectory and trying to parent a little bit, just parent different and kind of being more open to what they have
Yeah.
to say because they're living in a different world. Like they're living in
Yeah.
a different world than I grew up in. And so I really got to always try to come from a place of understanding.
Yeah,
Because if
and
not,
with
my girl, she's strong-willed, man. If us two go at it, it's not gonna be good. So
yeah, throw Mikey in the mix.
yeah,
That should be
right.
on fun one.
Yeah, for real.
The
Yeah.
way the way stuff is now with social media and these kids is rough. It's something that we never had to navigate. Uh it's something that where bullies can get attached to you, and then you got to take it home with you, and or school drama and stuff like that you can't get away from, and it's
Mhm.
something that I never had to deal with. So
Mhm.
watching my daughter navigate that, and I kind of check in on it, and like
Mhm.
with that, and like, oh, you cannot lick kids now. I don't know how
No.
much times I
Boys, you cannot.
yeah, you know how much times I chat GBT, how fast will I get arrested if I lick my daughter in Hawaii?
Right. No, same. Like, and that's how I grew up too. Like, you do something you expecting for catch cracks, right? Like,
Yeah.
that goes without saying. Like, you coming home and you're just squeezing because you know you're gonna catch cracks. But no, you cannot lick your kids these days. So trying to find alternative methods. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've been in education for such a long time. I just realized that you just told me earlier that you were in preschool, and that hits home with me because my wife is doing she's a teacher for a publicly funded preschool, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool because when Ario was born, they didn't even have publicly funded
Yeah.
preschools. I had to pay, and that
Yeah.
that stuff wasn't cheap either. But at least the
Yeah.
state's putting that into effect.
Yeah.
You as a preschool teacher, like primarily that whole time I knew you're a preschool teacher.
Well, by the time I had kids, I was already kind of getting out of the scene, like more like just on the work side, not on the like recreational side. Because cannot, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
cannot. The years go by, recovery takes too long. So, but
Yep.
but yeah, I was started. So I got into the whole preschool world when Maddox was born. So he's 20, going to be 21 now. So about 20 years ago. And then over the course of time, like started assistant or aide and assistant, and then preschool teacher. And then I was in the preschool till COVID time. Then when COVID finished, I ended up at UH lecturing there because you
Oh.
could do it fully remote. And so I went from the classroom to then teaching at UH and like lecturing there about early childhood. And then from working there and on another grant project there, that's how I got involved in the policy space.
Okay.
Because yeah, so when I left preschool was kind of two things. Of course, it was COVID, right? I had all my own kids that I had to take care of during COVID time. And then I got pregnant with Lincoln. So it's like super much couldn't go back to the classroom. But then on top of that, just the wages don't pay, right? Like as a
Yeah.
preschool teacher in a community-based program, like thankful there's public pre-K now. And the teachers teachers still should be paid more, but they're paid better than on the community-based side, like in the
Oh
private
yeah.
preschools. So that was a factor too, just like financially being a preschool teacher just wasn't cutting it with for almost five kids at that
Yeah.
time. It was, just you just cannot make enough. So that was part of the decision too.
I get
But yeah,
it. My
about
wife's
20
still a
years,
bartender because of that same
right? Yeah, you
yeah.
gotta have like one full-time job, one part-time job, and side
A side
hustle,
hustle,
like
yeah. So the
all of it,
kind Krispy Kreme on the side of the road, whatever.
right? Like just to get by, because like Hawaii is so expensive. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with the work you're doing now, like what is it exactly that your job does? Well, what do you do?
So my title is Early Childhood Policy and Advocacy Coordinator.
Oh,
That's
that's
a
a
long title.
handful. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
That
long title. But basically what that means is I work with communities, providers, teachers, like systems people, parents, and try to move legislation, bills, laws at the
Wow.
legislature to increase funding, change laws to make Hawaii better for our families. Like that's really our focus. So Hawaii Children's Action Network, which is my employer, and just wanted to say caveat disclaimer, I'm speaking in my personal in this interview, I'm speaking on my personal accordance. But at my job, we're really looking for ways to make life easier for families in Hawaii. So more
Okay.
of our families can stay, making things more affordable, right? So like childcare is a big issue. That's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
get two kids, if you get two young kids, that's more expensive than your rent and your mortgage. Food costs, like housing affordability, and then also like safety net programs, like supporting those, like SNAP and MedQuest and making sure that those are still available and accessible to the families who need it. So it's a lot of that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like, how do we make Hawaii a livable place for our families because they're leaving my cousin just left, my sister left last year. Like it seems like every couple months like somebody else is leaving Hawaii, and it's usually
Yeah.
because of affordability, and so that's really what it is trying to change laws and make changes that make it better for our kids and easier for our families. It's really the
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you writing these laws or working with people that are trying to change it?
So we draft bills. So one of the bills that I helped to draft last year, and then even the year before, was like one of the big ones that we had is around preschool open doors. So preschool open doors is a subsidy, a state-funded subsidy to pay for preschool if you go to a community-based school. So like
Oh,
not a public pre-K. And so that one was pretty huge. We got the funding increased to 50 million. So it's like
oh
triple what it
wow.
was. 2-year-olds will be accepted soon as the rules change. And then the huge part was that we brought the income eligibility up to 500%.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so that's pretty huge. Because what was happening is that a lot of our families, like I'm sure you can relate to this, like we make too much to qualify for the subsidy, but we make too little to pay $1,000, $2,000 in childcare or whatever. So then you're stuck because you kind of get the subsidy, but you actually kind of afford all these expenses either.
Yeah.
So we brought the income eligibility up. So when those applications are open, a family of four earning up to 184,000 now can apply for preschool open doors subsidies. So that will
Oh,
help
nice.
pay for preschool. So those are the main bills that we worked on, and then, drafted, wrote those bills.
Okay, let's take a short break to shout out our sponsor, Defend Hawaii. They've been with us from the beginning. They have some new drops coming out. If you visit them on their website, defendhawaii.com, and grab whatever stuff you want, when you check out, use promo code ATBPOD upon checkout, and you'll get 15% off your first purchase. So go to their website, defendhawaii.com, let them know ATB Pod sent you. Aloha.
Like the real goal is to work with community members, like work with our families and our parents and get their ideas about what needs to be changed and what these bills should look like, and what changes need to be made in their community, because what works in Waianae may not work in Kalihi or may not work you know what I mean, wherever you're from. Like
Yeah,
it's going to be different if you're on Big Island as
yeah,
compared to if you're living in Honolulu, right? So it's really about trying to gather those community voices and their input and have them be the voices that guides these bills, these laws, and these legislation. Because like for me, part of the reason why I got into policy is because I was seeing a lot of changes, and I was like, so whose bright idea was that? Because that's not going to help me,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and no shade on anybody. Always like assuming best intent, right? That people have the best intentions. But unless you're getting that voice from the community, unless it's actually coming from the people who it's affecting, the parents, the kupuna, whoever it is, unless those ideas are actually coming from the community, then you don't know if it's going to work. Like you might
Yeah.
have one legislator, whatever, one politician that making decisions for you, and you never have nothing to say about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that was kind of my, you know, my trip of like impetus for wanting to get involved is just recognizing that our community voice was not being uplifted in these spaces. So that's really like my main goal with that. And then my son is 20, and I work and I hope and I pray that he can stay home, just like
Yeah.
Arya, like when they come to be adults, that they don't feel like they have to leave Hawaii just to make it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my hopes. Like that's my personal reasons. Like I really just want my kids to be able to stay home and live in Hawaii. And so in the meantime, hopefully we can make some changes so that that becomes more of a reality and less of our ohana has to leave and have to make that choice. They don't really want to go. Like the ones,
Yeah.
I don't know how many of your friends, I'm sure a ton of
Oh
them are in
yeah.
Vegas
Yep.
right now,
Oh yeah.
Washington, Texas, right?
Texas is starting to get popular. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. It's like you are the kind of person like, oh, I'm not just gonna talk about it, I'm gonna be about it. And then like if this was something that you're passionate about, seems like
Mhm.
you can jump in full fledged, but how disconnected is our community when these freaking laws are being made? Or like you said, these things affect all of us,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's
Mhm.
getting their
Mhm.
input taken seriously. And
Mhm.
we're the ones living this stuff, like the
Mhm.
politicians and stuff like that. They're old. They don't want kids that are doing it now. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
if they're not relating to the community
Mhm.
who's going through it at the moment, how disconnected is, and how are you linking that?
Well, I mean, that's the big thing, right? If we don't speak up, if we don't
Yeah.
say something, if we don't contact them, if we don't. So, for example, so one of the things that I do is advocacy training, civic engagement. So basically, it's like step by step how to contact your lawmaker, how to give your opinion on these different laws that are being passed about, the budget, how the state is spending the money, and just the process of being able to do that. So like I do advocacy trainings and then, within our huis and our networks, or there's parents or like teachers or whoever it is, really trying to set up that framework and then get them to like meet their legislators, like talk to the politicians, have meetings with them, like be with them in community so that they can get their voices heard. Because otherwise, if we're not saying what we need, if they don't know, how are
Yeah.
they supposed to act on our behalf? Right. So if nobody said anything, and they went about and did it, well, nobody said nothing. Like
Yeah.
nobody said anything about it. And I'm not gonna lie, like there's some stuff that like tries to slide by silent, like, and you got to watch and you got to catch it. But the more we're paying attention, right? The more we're paying attention, the more we're involved, and hopefully we can catch those things and they don't like slide by us. And, we get more and just build the skills to get comfortable with like calling your legislator and be like, hey, I live in your community and I'm not down with that. Like not in that language, but of
Yeah.
course more formal, but basically that, or, you know, my kid's school, right? No more AC, 100 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And like where the money went, if we're not calling them out on that and holding them accountable, then who is? Like if our community doesn't hold them accountable, who's going to hold them accountable? Not
Yeah.
themselves, right?
So in your opinion, honest kind, how much do these legislatures or bigwigs, do they receive all this stuff and make a change to what the community is saying? I always feel like these politicians hear all this and is in one ear, out the other ear. They're gonna do what they want. They get their own agenda. Like, do they? And it's probably not all. Some might be receptive, some might not be. But in your opinion, how much do you think our community talking and taking those programs to effect and showing out and talking, calling, writing their politicians, How much of that do you think makes a difference to where these politicians say, oh shit, I gotta listen, I gotta make a change because this seems to be important?
I feel like it does. I
Okay,
feel like
that's
it
good to
does.
know.
And maybe not all the time and not maybe with all people, like you're saying, it doesn't like one statement kind of account for everybody, but I really do feel like it does make a difference because as I see bills move through, like the more community voices there, like there was one bill, I kind of side quest, but anyways, there was this one bill that was about having testing for homeschool kids. And those
Oh,
kids showed up like with their parents and like all these legislators was signed on to this bill, but they showed up in mass. I think at like 3 hours of testimony, kids and parents, and that bill died. They killed it. They killed that bill. Or
oh,
like Preschool Open Doors, we was asking for an investment of $50 million. Like that's a pretty big ask, but the community showed up, and they did their testimony and they said and it went through. And so I really do think that it does have an impact. And again, not always, right? Not always.
yeah,
Sometimes it's going to be disappointing. You're going to have community voice and it's not going to be heard. And that's a bummer. And we just got to go stronger next time. But the fact of the matter is they're all elected officials, right? So if their communities are voicing something and the community is voicing their opinion, sharing their mana'o, and that representative just disregards it time and time again, then
yeah,
they might not get elected, right? Like if you vote, right? If you vote and you see that this legislator time and time again is not standing up for your community, for your kids, for your neighborhood, time and time again, next time come around, I'm not gonna vote for them, like
yeah.
you're out, like, and that's the
That's
reality.
true.
So there is a certain amount of accountability, and this year is an election year, right? So like,
Is it? Oh
yeah,
shit,
this year.
it is, huh?
So governor, lieutenant governor,
That's right.
mayors, like half the Senate. So there's two chambers at the legislature. There's the Senate side, and then there's the House of Representatives. So like half of the Senate and the entire House is all up for election this year.
Well, you know, like
Like,
try to run.
no. No, 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 no. I like being on the community side of
Hmm.
things and like, you know, I'm very honest. Like honest to a fault. And
That's
so
true. And you speak it, so yeah, you be the first person to get kicked out.
don't let that lady in here. She'll be raising a
Yeah.
ruckus.
That's probably what we need though.
Yeah. No, there's really no, there's some good people in there. And then another thing that I'm really happy about, and I feel like it has definitely benefited our working families, is on the House side, there's a large amount, almost like half of the House side. So House of Representatives, you get two in each district. About half of them is like all younger. There's a good amount
Hmm.
of them that have children and young children. So like back in the day, it was like pretty much all retirees, you
Yeah.
know, that was in office. But there's more and more younger people, like, with families that are in office right now. So I feel like it's a really good time to be active, like to participate, because we have a legislature, where a good amount of those people are listening, that are living that same struggle, trying to raise their kids in Hawaii. And so they're
Yeah.
more receptive. I definitely feel like right now the legislature is more receptive to community voice than they were in the past, for sure.
Wow, that's really good to know. Because I've been freaking emailing and sending, having my dad message our city council for Dredger River by my house, but
Right?
nothing. Like he never do them yet. And then oh, that rain came. I was like, oh, this might be the one where they're gonna have to do something. But
Yeah. So they came out with
yeah,
a big statement around that, right? About the
yeah,
the dredging, the dams, like all of, the emergency response, like, yeah, big trips with that.
yeah,
So, and that's the thing too, right? Is like being part of a community. And so that's one of the things we try to do. Like if only me, Malia, or, only them, or only this one person, we send our 111. But now if we do it together as a hui, right? And we're all sending it together and we all get the same message, then it comes across a lot stronger. It's that strength in numbers kind of thing. So like
that's
when
what
you
it
go to
needs.
your city council or, your neighborhood meeting or whatever's, and your dad shows up, like that's super awesome, for him
Yeah.
to show up. But if dad shows up with his whole hui and the uncles and the cousins, like, then, you know what I mean? Then they kind of step back and they're like, oh, okay, like what you have to say. You better listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest issues right now that Hawaii is challenging that you guys wanna change for
Oh,
what work you're doing?
so for me, like my primary lane is early childhood, so education and health. That's my
Mhm.
primary lane. But I think all of us recognize that housing is a huge issue, right?
Yeah.
Affordability is a huge issue. So we do work around like housing affordability as well, like taxes, economic justice kind of things. But one of the huge things facing Hawaii right now is all of the federal cuts. Like there's like
Oh yeah.
huge federal funding cuts. Like a couple months ago, we had that whole thing where SNAP was going to get cut off.
What is
And
SNAP?
so that's a supplemental nutrition assistance. So food stamps, do you remember food stamps?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
WIC
that's what
and oh okay, okay. EBT
yeah, so
card, like
that's
that kind.
yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
So
okay.
that's what they call food stamps now is SNAP. And so that
Cannot
was
buy beer with that, huh? Anyway,
no, you
sorry.
cannot
Okay.
buy beer or hot foods. So you
Oh,
can buy
okay.
cold foods, no alcohol or anything like that. But yeah, WIC is another one. But anyway, so SNAP was gonna get canceled in what, October, November. But fortunately, right, the work of the advocates, right? So that's what we call them, that's what I call myself, policy and advocacy, had already been working with Department of Human Services. And so they were able to transfer, I don't know how many millions of dollars into that fund to keep the SNAP program going. So
Mm.
federally it was cut, like people wouldn't have money for food.
Yeah.
Hawaii, the program stayed operating through state funds. But like
Oh,
if that work hadn't been done, through advocacy, working with the departments, like they wouldn't have been able to implement that at the speed that they did. So like that's a huge thing. And one of the things I was working on kind of along the same lines about the federal funding cuts is the Native Hawaiian education programming.
oh.
So that was supposed to get cut. It got restored until September, but that was like $45 million. And that paid for like all of our native, like so much of our Native Hawaiian education programming and health. So like health resources, a lot of like the Olelo Hawaii, at UH Manoa, all of those kinds of programs,
Mm.
those are on the chopping block. And so the
That's
budget is
not
a
Kamehameha stuff though, huh? That's
so
federal.
Kamehameha stuff is separate.
Okay.
That's a separate thing, but the funding for all the Native Hawaiian education programs, not a part of KS, because KS doesn't take any federal monies. They don't take any federal money. They don't take any state money. They're totally, they operate financially independent from any of government sources. But yeah, that's federal funding that they're going to cut, which is huge because there's so many programs that rely on that funding. And we're talking about, our underserved communities, our at-risk communities, because our Native Hawaiian population, unfortunately is makes up a big portion of that underserved communities, Waimanalo, Waianae, Puna side, and without that funding, like we'd lose a lot of the resources in the
Yeah.
communities. So like really staying aware of those changes. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, if we know cuts are coming down, federal funding cuts are coming down, what is the state gonna do? Right.
To kind
Oh,
of subsidize the
right. How are
federal
they going
cut.
to step in? Are they just going to let it die? Are they just going to like let those programs and all of those community programs just disappear? Or are they going to step up and help
Yeah.
those that are most in need? So again, it's about holding people accountable, right? But if we're not paying attention and like watching
Yep.
what they're doing, like nobody going to keep them, then,
Yeah.
nobody going to keep them accountable. So,
Okay, let's take a break from talking to Malia and shout out our sponsor, iRep Detail Supply. They're your one-stop shop superstore for everything you need to detail whatever vehicle you have. They have a shop in Temple Valley Shopping Center. They also have one in Vegas. They're opening one on the west side pretty soon, but go visit their website at irepdetailsupply.com. Use promo code ATBpod upon checkout. You'll get 15% off whatever products you want, whatever stuff you need. irepdetailsupply.com. Aloha. Yeah, I've been feeling them too because we're federally funded because I work cancer research
right.
for the Cancer Research Center, but through the university. And all
Mm-hmm.
our projects are federally funded
Yeah,
through
right.
federal grants,
Right.
and we've been getting pinched, and
Mm-hmm.
some of our grants not going through.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the ones I'm working on are okay, but I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
squeezing in like, oh, they're just gonna cut
Yeah.
your funds. I seen people
Yeah.
like
They
they got,
did.
yep, they're not working anymore, and
They did. They had choke cuts, College of Ed, like choke
yeah.
cuts across the university system. But I actually was in a hearing on last week or so, but there was a bill about trying to fund the cancer research at UH Manoa and get more state funding for that so that they wouldn't have to rely so heavily on the federal funds,
Yeah,
and to
because
try
we're
to keep
bringing
kids
in
there.
what for us is good because we can do research because Hawaii is such a diverse community. We can
Yeah.
research different ethnicities,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
most places in America you cannot like do research on a Filipino family or one Samoan and one Hawaii all in the same
Mm-hmm.
place. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
no way. So that's why we
Mm-hmm.
bringing in a lot of researchers who want to do research on that kind of work, and we're the only place you can do it. So I think
Yeah.
that saved a couple of our grants, but
Yeah.
the like even like for my daughter, fortunately her scholarship is through Kamehameha, so we didn't have to
Mm,
worry. And even
mm-hmm.
them, they doing away with that program, the
Mm-hmm.
Kipono program, but
Mm.
she's grandfathered in until she graduates, fortunately.
Nice. Nice.
And we had 2 more years, so hopefully it goes through. But
Oh, two more
you,
years.
I
Oh,
know
we
it's
needed
fucking crazy.
such a trip. Yeah.
I trip out, like I'm this year I think I'm starting to feel it the most because I get caught in the feels. Like I
Yeah.
it's weird. Like I'll walk past my daughter's room and I'll be like, oh, in 2 years I'm gonna look in there and she's not gonna be there. She's gonna be off to college, or like it's just the reality. Or oh, in 2 years I don't need to make her breakfast because she's not gonna be here. Or in 2 years I
Oh,
don't need driver school. Then I get all like, oh
no.
babe, come over here. Like
I know.
and
I know.
yeah, it helps me be more in the moment, and
Mhm.
it helps me be more present in the moment, where times where I'll be doing something and be like, just a bot, like do it later. It's now it's like, no, what you need, we'll do it now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it helps me think that way because like
Yeah.
I mean, my situation with her, from little, and it was at times it was just me and her, and
Yeah.
I have a like that's my little girl. So the way things are now, like you said, is like, oh, like your kid's 20, and you want them to stay home, and that's
Mhm.
the same. I already know my daughter like wants to go to college for the mainland, so I
Mm.
have to make it attractive for her to come back home after she's finished with that. Or frick, I'm gonna have to be going mainland to see my
Well, you know what?
grandkids and shit like
So
that.
now, so my eldest son, he wants to get into law, but he wants to practice law here in Hawaii. And so I was super grateful that one of his kumu was like, oh, if you want to practice law in Hawaii, then you should study law in Hawaii because it's so
Oh,
specific to Hawaii, you
well,
know.
you had to
And
slide
UH
some
has a good,
money to that guy.
yeah, right. I was like, oh yeah, because different, right? If coming from mom is compared to if coming
Oh
from
yeah.
somebody else, right? So his kumu
Yeah.
told him. So he kind of looked into it, and then it was just like I was so grateful. But like one of the things before he said that, I was like, you can go to UH and there's plenty like student exchange programs because
Yeah.
everybody wants to come to Hawaii, so many schools want to do a student exchange with Hawaii people. So my other way angle that I was telling him was like, you can stay home and get the the in-state tuition, right? Still live at
Ooh.
home, save money, but then do all the student exchange programs and then fly out, go all around the world and have those experiences while still being based at home. It worked
I'm
out
gonna
well.
use that.
Yeah, no, but they have plenty though. I looked into it because I was, that's my oldest, that's my first
Oh
baby, right?
yeah. Yeah.
No, but they have a lot though. They have a lot. Like it's definitely worth looking into. And then there's certain programs that have more, but all around the world, like throughout Asia, Europe, like all around the world. And then they have this other one too. Sorry, a little bit off topic, but it's called Semester at Sea.
Oh.
Um, and so what that is this program where the kids get on basically a cruise ship. I know
Okay.
somebody who did this and they spent a semester at sea. And depending what time of the year you get on, it's going to be like where the boat is. But it goes like all from Europe, like all around Africa through Asia. Like, yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing too.
Yeah, my daughter's not doing that one. She'd be on a boat stuck with a bunch of college kids. Fuck that.
No,
That's
but
not
it's a
happening.
college. Like it's on like all of their credits, like their school is the boat.
Yeah, but at school isn't 24/7. They get, if you stuck on a boat, what else is there for do? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, true. I have a boy, and so I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have suggested that for my daughter, but
Yeah.
yeah, for my son, I was like, oh, what
Go
about this? Yeah,
ahead. Go have fun. Yeah.
so terrible.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be different for boys and girls, but I'm kind of old school like that. I'm not trying to be biased or, but
Yeah.
different. Different
That
people,
is,
boy
you
and
get
girl.
both. Like, what's the joke? Like, when you get on boy, you just gotta worry about one dingaling. If you're on girl, you gotta worry about all the dinglings.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot more to worry about. And then, with regard
Yeah.
to like the social media thing, right? Like
Oh,
everything
yeah.
is like public and everything is permanent. So like trying to be mindful about that, like recognizing and communicating that like what you post is forever. Like you
What you
can delete it,
text.
but people
Yeah.
can, later on you can be 20, 30 years old applying for one job. And it's crazy because I, went through that whole cancel culture thing where people
Yeah.
was getting canceled for things they said when they was like 14 and just dumb,
Yeah.
like a dumb 14-year-old, and they got canceled in their adult life for the things they did when they were a teenager. So like I feel like compassion for the kids now because like they're expected to like operate at such a higher level. Like,
Yeah.
like everything is public. Like when I was in school, like get good grades and don't get arrested, like that was kind of, but like
I
now
didn't
you
do
gotta like,
either one of those things right. Got arrested. I had shitty grades.
right. But it wasn't posted all over social media. The whole world didn't know about it. It
Oh,
wasn't
I'm
like,
glad for that. Yeah.
nobody was recording you with the
Yes.
camera while you was getting arrested, so like you can kind of live that down and leave, kind of leave it in the past. Whereas the kids nowadays, like they never know, like whatever they're doing, like you never know, like everybody has a camera now, like, and
Yeah.
people are so quick to like jump on, and like everybody has an opinion, and everybody, kind of critical. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad I grew up when I did, because I don't think
Me
I would
too.
be able to
Yeah.
manage all of that.
Yeah. I'd be in prison. I think, yeah. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit because you're a preschool teacher, and that, like I said, it hits home with my wife, but how important is it to have like early childhood development by preschool? Because
Oh my God.
I know a lot of people, like my friends, they never send their kids preschool because it was too expensive, and
Mhm.
I know they have publicly funded preschool now for some of these communities, but not all. But how
Mhm.
important is it for early learning and childhood development?
Oh my goodness. So getting on the nerd side of things. So
Yeah.
90% of brain development happens from age 0 to 5. So by the time a child is 5 years old, 90% of their brain is developed.
Oh,
From
wow.
the age of 0 to 2 year old, they're developing a million networks, so synapses, brain connections per
Yeah.
second, right?
Oh,
So what that means, and then of course there's also, all of the social emotional learning and learning how to be with people. But what that means is that in those early years, those formative years, like you really have an opportunity to build the brain in a way that is never going to be available again. Like
oh,
for you to wire up their brains in a way that allows them to learn, like to be ready for learn, to develop language. And when we're talking about preschool, and this is a big thing, is because like there's a misconception like preschool teachers are babysitters, right? Like, oh, you just
yeah.
play with kids, But if you're doing it right, like play is the way children learn, right? They learn their bodies, they learn cause and effect, they learn how things work, they learn how to socialize, they learn, taking turns, they learn their balance, all of these kinds of things, fine motor. Like if the child is like, building blocks or, making the cute little bracelets that they make with the beads, right? Like that's all fine motor stuff that is going to help them with their writing later. When you're reading to your child, when you're talking to your child, you're teaching them language, you're teaching them how to recognize words, how to recognize patterns. And all of that is going to support their learning when they get into the later years, right? Because if the child gets into kindergarten and they still have to acquire these basic skills and their brains really haven't had that opportunity to wire up and make those connections, learning is going to be more challenging because like if you think about it like if you like think about it like a highway, right? Like, you get the H1, you get the H2, and you get all of these side roads, right? And you're going to take your kid and you're going to go cruising and you're going to check out all the different side roads. Then by the time they get older, they know all the side roads, they know all the little pukas, they know all the parks, like they know their landscape.
Yeah.
As compared to if you only took them driving on the H1 and the H2, then that's all they know. They just know this one track, right?
Yeah.
Because they haven't been exposed to everything else. So then when it's time for them to go on their own, like if they have been exposed to all of their environment and all of the different side roads and the connections, they're going to be better able to understand and interact with their world, as compared to if they only took the same route every day.
Yeah. That
So,
makes sense. My
yeah.
wife, she's a preschool teacher, and she does all these different things, and we didn't get into a fight. She got pissed at me because I said, "Why are you doing all this? Like you just babysitting little kids," and she got pissed. But she has like a water table. She has like she get all this stuff sent to the house to like textures and stuff for kids. She literally built a chicken coop to show the kids the stages of the egg hatching. And they have chickens at their school right now because of her. Like she's not just a babysitter, and if done
Yeah.
right, that's what it's for. But I didn't realize how important it
Mm-hmm.
was for kids to experience all those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
learning, development, and I didn't know it was that important. Like at a preschool level, I was like, they just kind of you just getting the parents just dropping off because they got to go work, and they, but
Mm-hmm.
it's super important in your opinion that these kids are putting in those situations to learn already, like starting to develop.
Yeah, they're learning their world, right? This is their first introduction to the world. So what is it that we want to introduce to them? How familiar of the world with the world do you want them to be? How capable are they going to be? And will you help them to develop the skills and like emotional regulation? If a child goes into kindergarten and they never was around other kids, and they don't have those skills to be able to make friends or have a conversation or things like that, even as basic as that, it's going to be challenging if they go and this is their first time, where they got to sit down at circle time, right? Maybe they ran around the whole time and then now they got to sit down for circle time. They got to follow this schedule, and they don't have any prior experience for that. That's hard for the kid, right?
Yeah,
And then now we're looking at the teachers and like, oh, well, what are the teachers doing? Like the teachers get 20 kids in the
yeah,
class,
yeah,
and so the early childhood years is really to allow these children to have that independence, to self-regulate, to be able to, mind their emotions and be able to regulate themselves so that they can learn. Because what we don't want to see happen is that, we get the rascal kids, always going to have rascal kids,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but hopefully, if a teacher is well prepared, and knowledgeable, then she can take that kolohe kid and find ways to keep him interested, right? To find ways to keep him engaged. And that's why, like, especially during the early years when these kids are still learning self-regulation, they're still learning language. Like, if you and me, if we get upset, like we have these skills, we can walk away, we can, take a break, we can, whatever it is, we have some
sometimes.
options, right? We,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have some
yeah,
options, right? But
yeah,
if you're a little kid, and you get your feels, you get all of your emotions, and nobody has like taught you or coached you what to do with that, right? And then you end up trying one tantrum, then, oh, this kid is a problem child. No, the child is not a problem child. He just needs
yeah,
to learn skills. And so the the more we can invest into early childhood, the better prepared the children are for all of the years. Because if they go into kindergarten and they hate school by the first grade, how are they going to manage for the next
yeah.
11 years, So, yeah,
How
super
come
important.
Okay, stop. Let's take a break. I want to shout out my sponsor, Medicinal Mushrooms Hawaii. They're your locally based medicinal mushroom company, and they have five mushrooms that they've been extracting and putting in these tinctures, and each one of these mushrooms have a medicinal function. I take them every single day. They have lion's mane, chaga, red reishi, turkey tail, and the newest one is the cordyceps. I take all five daily. I'll take the lion's mane, chaga, turkey tail in the morning. I'll take red reishi at night to go to sleep, and I'll take the cordyceps as a pre-workout. But visit them on their website, medmushroomhigh.com, and it'll explain to you what medicinal properties each and every one of these mushrooms have. I take them all, like I said, go give them a visit. Medmushroomhigh.com. Use promo code ATBPOD check out all capital letters. You'll get 45% off your first tincture of whatever mushrooms you want. Medmushroomhigh.com. Aloha. How come you don't think the state, at least here in Hawaii, doesn't or didn't already have publicly funded preschools? If it's that important at that young of an age, how come they
Mhm.
never had them yet? And how come only now it's only getting implemented in certain communities?
Well, a lot of it is funding, right? It's
Yeah.
expensive, the for all these years up until public pre-K, kind of really got a strong start. It was our community-based programs and which were very expensive.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just been a political shift with leadership, so we have some leaders, politicians who were willing to make that investment and they were willing to get on board because this is something that's been talked about for like 20 plus years. Universal access to pre-K, public pre-K has been talked about decades now. And it's
Yeah.
been, I would say, in the last 5 years that there's been a strong effort around that. And I gotta, and I don't, I'm not trying to vie for any one politician or otherwise, but Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke, she really had a huge part in pushing what is called the Ready Keiki initiative. And that's public pre-K. And then, all of the other legislators that got on board to support that and to support the funding, recognizing the need of working families. And that was the big impetus around it, is that so many of our younger working families were leaving. And even like working with like Chamber of Commerce and Department of Labor, it is consistently identified, especially for younger families, that childcare is a huge barrier to raising children in Hawaii,
Yeah.
especially if you have more than one, because right now it comes out like within the community-based side. So, old school preschools, not public pre-K, where families are paying about 25% of their income per
Oh
month
yeah. Yeah.
for childcare. And if you get two, it comes up to about 50%. So half their income, right? Just so that they can go to work. And so it was really impacting the workforce. It was impacting, families moving away. And so that had a big influence on it as well, in terms of like the legislators willing to make that investment to make it more affordable for people to be in Hawaii. And childcare was a huge issue,
Oh
and being
wow.
able to achieve that. Yeah.
Do you think in the future it will be kind of open to everybody, where everybody, just like public school, you start at preschool instead of
Yeah, that's the
kindergarten?
goal. That is the goal. But then there's also that balance, right, between opening public pre-K and keeping our community-based programs, right?
Hmm.
So like the school that I was at, before COVID, what they've been there for like 40 years. And so you have these preschools that have been in the communities for decades, like teachers there that taught parents of children who are there now, and we want to make sure that we keep those community-based programs open. So, like Preschool Open Doors is one of the ways that it helps to make the tuition more affordable for those students or those families who want to attend a community-based preschool, or maybe one faith-based preschool, whatever it is, or the preschool that their mother attended or was in their community forever and ever, that is really a part of that community. And so we want to also keep those available and make it affordable for parents as well. So, trying to find different angles, because the public pre-K side is, super awesome. So happy that parents can send their kids to preschool. But right now, there's no before and after school care, right? It's just a school day, so
Yeah.
that's something that is going to have to be addressed because most working parents, they kind of get off at 2 o'clock to go and pick up their kids. So there's still a lot of work to be done, a
Yeah.
lot of work to be done. But the state is moving, making progress, moving in a good direction. And the challenge is always funding. It's like, how do we prioritize the state budget? I was just looking at the state budget is $20 billion a year with a B, billion, okay? Like
A
billion,
year.
a year. Yeah,
Jeez.
a year. And so like,
Yeah.
how do we, and that's another reason, why community has to be involved is because how are those dollars allocated? Like,
Yeah.
how is that money that like that's your money? If you pay taxes, that's your money,
Yep.
like, do you want to have a say on where it gets spent? Is it in education? Is it in affordable housing? Is it, trying to
The
find ways,
rail.
right? Like make food more affordable, like whatever it is, like, are they making decisions on behalf, of your family that benefits your family? Or are decisions being made that, benefits in international investment
Hmm.
or, outside investment where the money leaves the state and they don't pay taxes in state? Like, can get into a whole nother sidetrack on
Yeah.
that. I won't even
Well,
get
on
into
the
it,
on the
but
projects that you're working on, which one would you want to see pushed through like the fastest or the first?
for me right now, well, for me personally, it's expanding making childcare more affordable for families
Hmm.
because our young families are leaving.
Yeah.
Um, and I respect everybody's decision to have or to not have children, but not being able to have childcare shouldn't be the determining factor, right? That shouldn't have to be a choice in Hawaii where, we're supposed to supposedly, right? Hawaii, we live aloha, right? Malama, we take care of ohana, like that's supposed to be the framework and foundation of what we do. But yet when it comes to taking care of our own families, the parents are put in positions to make decisions that they shouldn't have to make. So right now, childcare for me, in my lane, that's a huge thing. So preschools, childcare access for infant toddlers too. Like infant toddlers, like if you have a baby, it is so hard to get childcare, and it's like $2,000 a month to
A
get child
month?
a month if you go to a center. Yeah, a month for an infant.
You need
In the centers.
grandparents.
Yeah, but then even that though, even our grandparents, they working later,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They having
yeah.
to they still
They're not
working, a lot of
retiring. Yeah,
them.
you're right.
Hmm. So we're in that funky, that challenging sandwich generation, right? Where we get kids and our parents are getting older, and we're going to come to this position where we have to possibly be taking care of our aging parents as well as our children or grandchildren at the same time. And then another thing that we're working on at Hawaii Children's Action Network is paid family medical leave. So it's similar to like TDI, but it
Hmm.
adds an additional 12 weeks. So
Oh,
if you were ill or you have a baby or your child gets sick or any of your family members need caregiving, you would have, it's basically like an insurance program where you would have up to 6 months in the year to
oh
be able
wow.
to provide care to that family member. So that's a big one. It's made progress over the years. It died this session. They're doing a study on it again.
Oh.
But that would be super helpful too, because like you shouldn't have to choose between taking care of your family member. Like I go and, leave my sick kid,
Yeah.
like families go through a lot of challenges, and to have to say, I cannot take care of you because I got to go to work is, that's a hard decision. People shouldn't have to make. But yeah, paid family medical leave is another big one that we're working on at HCAN as well. And then I know you said to pick just one, but
No, no, I like
also
no.
is
Yeah.
the feds are making a work requirement for people getting SNAP and MedQuest. And so you got to do volunteer hours or work hours, but like some people cannot, like if you have a disability
Oh
or,
yeah.
things like that. So it's also kind of addressing some of those issues as well, so that people who are not able to work, for whatever reason, don't lose those coverages, like, end up homeless or no more food or no more medical and things like that. And so also trying a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of it is because the federal impacts, but just trying to make sure that our kids have safe, quality learning experiences, that our families have enough to eat, that they have access to medicine. So at HCAN, our vision is, that Hawaii is the best place to raise children, and that all
Yeah.
children are safe, healthy, and ready to learn. Like that's that's what we want. Is like safe, healthy, and ready to learn. Like if we could do that for all children, ensure that they're safe,
Yeah.
like that would be a dream. That'd be so amazing.
Well, I mean, when stuff doesn't work out with the projects you're going through, what keeps you going? What makes you like, what keeps you thinking you're gonna make a difference personally?
So I get inspired because like through this work, I got to meet a lot of awesome people. And a lot of times I find myself in rooms with people who are like just genuinely trying to do the right thing, like genuinely just trying to make things better, and like that's so rare and it's such a blessing. And I'm so grateful like that I can like find myself in rooms like with like legitimately and honestly, I'm sitting there and like nobody is there for their own gain. Like, nonprofit people, they don't make money. Like you're not there
Yeah.
for the money. It's like teachers, you don't teach for the money, they're actually there to make a change. So it's the people in the community that, that I connect with. And then it's the small wins too, like recognizing the small wins. Like even if it's like only one other classroom opened up, this year, still that's 20 more families, right, that maybe can stay home because that classroom opened. Or like when the SNAP funding, came through, and our thousands of families never lose their food money, in those months. Like that's huge, so it's really it's really recognizing and acknowledging and like taking the wins, big or small,
Oh, okay.
and being inspired by that, and just being grateful to be in community with people who really want to make a difference and make it better. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
so that keeps me going because I have my days where I'm like, oh, I get so mad. I get so
So
mad. Like,
what would be your biggest win? Like what would be the thing was like, oh, yup, I made a difference. Like that happened because of me. Like what would be yours? Like,
I,
yeah.
you can't, well, I cannot make a difference like just me, like,
Or your work.
like like
Yeah.
all that. Well, the big one for me was just this past year when we had the eligibility go up to 500%,
Okay.
because like my cousin and my sister actually they were eligible for the Preschool Open Doors program that year, and that made a huge difference in their lives. So to see that, to like do the work and actually see it impact like my family, like knowing my cousin, my sister, like they actually qualified this year, and that made such a huge difference for their family. Because when you're stressed out about money, like you get stressed about
Oh
like the whole
yeah.
family gets stressed, right? So to have that extra breathing room, like that, $1,000, $2,000 a month, like that's huge. And so like I see that in my community. Like for me, like a big win right now, like I honestly, I don't know what would be a big win right now, but one of the things I really was like super inspired and like grateful for is like after the Kona lows, like you've seen it, you see it all over social media and whatnot, but is really being inspired. And that that phrase, oh lucky we live Hawaii, like it's been thrown around through the years, like it's like a tagline.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like when you see this kind of things happen, and like you see how quickly the community responds, and you see all the different, like the nonprofits, the individuals, the for-profits, like everybody just like come together and like activate so quickly and selflessly,
Yeah.
like that's super inspiring to me. Like that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And that makes me feel like, oh, that is really why we are lucky to live Hawaii. And if our people keep leaving, like our Hawaii is not going to be the same, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So if I can see over the years, more of our families stay home or come back home,
Oh,
like
that's a
that,
good one. Yep.
that's a huge win. And that's not something that's going to happen overnight, but I think if we can see that happen where our local families, are able to stay home or return home. If our local families are able to buy homes, and then that would be huge. Like that would be
All
a
right.
huge win.
That's super cool. Shoot, we've been going for an hour and I'm super
Oh,
I probably could like there's so much more that I would like to talk to you about, but we'll save that for the next episode after more bills get passed that you guys pulling through. But
yeah. So before we wrap it up, just want to tag
yeah.
Hawaii Children's Action Network. And you can find me through that space. And if you want to share out my info, but like I was saying, like we do advocacy trainings, we do like listening sessions, community talk story. Like I'm always trying to connect with parents, just wanting to listen and learn and and just really hear like what's going on in your community and like what needs to change. And then see how we can work together to create a bill, like to pass laws that are meaningful to people, because if we make laws or legislators make laws and then they just say, oh, here, show up, sign up for this, like people like they're like, what are you talking about? It's different than when it actually comes from the community and they have buy-in, because then they know like that came from my community, this is my idea, this is, and then they take ownership, they take buy-in, and then they invest, right? Like willing to invest their time and like join with their hui and their community and their families because it's something that came from them, which is a lot different than if somebody says, oh, here's a bill, like come and support it,
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I want to plug to is capital.hawaii.org. There's something that's called the public access room. And through that, those videos are kind of boring, but it shows you like how to, and again, I do trainings around this, but it shows you like how to set up an account, how to search for bills, how to track bills, So like if you're curious and you just want to see, like you can go and look. So yeah, those are my plugs.
All right on. I appreciate you taking time for coming on. Before I go, I wanted to shout out your husband. He would never come on my show. He's always behind the scenes. He doesn't like the limelight. He doesn't like being the guy in front of the camera. He in the industry that we are in, he has been one of the most solidest people I have ever met. He always, no matter what, and this I'll take to my grave. He always believed in my company and he
Hmm.
always believed in me personally.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
he is one of the few people on the drop of a hat I can call him and before I even ask him anything, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And working with him again with our laid back stuff with Hoppa Boy
Mm.
has been so much fun just to be working with him and being around him. I love your husband. He is somebody in this industry that I call a brother, and you know how crazy and dumb and backstabbing and not
Mm.
honorable our industry is, and he has always been that
Mhm.
guy. And we've done a lot of crazy stuff together, but he's somebody I trust, and I'm super honored to call him my brother and to have met you through him. And I just nobody ever publicly does stuff with him because he's not on social media. He doesn't try to be that guy, but he's the
Yeah.
fucking man. Mikey's the fucking man, and everybody knows it. And for me personally, like that's somebody I love, and I've always had a lot of respect for. And he had an unwavering sense of belief in me, Thaddeus, in whatever I'm doing, and that'll always stick with me. And I really do appreciate him. And he does it with a smile, and he does it with fun, and I've done a lot of crazy shit with him, but he's one of the solidest people I've not known in the industry, just I've ever met in my life. And he's cool, and I know how much his kids mean to him, and I learn a lot by how he talks about his kids, and it he's been a huge blessing in my life for sure. I needed you to know that, but I hope he'll listen to this because I know he wouldn't come on and talk with me on in a public platform, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
solid person.
He's not gonna toot his own horn, but uh,
Yep.
That's so
I'll
super
toot it
sweet.
for him. He's the man.
No, that's super
Yeah.
sweet. No, and that means a lot because like going through the industry, like it's rough. Like we had bars, restaurants like for years, and like you meet all kinds of people, and like, again, no shade on anybody, but it's hard to find people you can trust.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find people that are honest and hardworking and reliable and not out there for the likes and for the gram,
Yeah.
like actually trying to do good work with good people. And so I think that speaks a lot to you, a lot about you as well, Thaddeus, because like there's been many people that have come and gone that we don't play with no more,
Yeah.
just because over time you see people's true colors. And so it's kind of funny because like the bar game with the politics game is really similar, and you get to see like you can learn to see the BS a lot faster
Yeah.
and like know who is real and like who you can actually rely on and talk to and who's going to be honest. But that's you, Thaddeus. Like, you know what I mean? Like you get what you put out, right? You get
Yeah.
what you put out, and you've been real from day one. And like the fact that we're even here, like almost 30 years later, like still chatting on this,
Yeah.
that says a lot. And I wish you all the best and pray your blessings and your success and everything you're doing. And Arya she's beautiful and
I know
smart
she's
and he's doing good things, in the community. And I think that's why you're still relevant today, because you're not full of it.
I
You're not full of it.
appreciate it. Yeah.
People recognize that. So, right back at you, brother. It's a joy. It's a joy and a blessing to see us, kind of grow up together into our adult
We
years out
still
of the
growing. We still do
craziness.
dumb shit, but not not
Yeah.
not as bad.
Not as
Yeah.
severe, not as often.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you
Okay.
taking time. This really meant a lot to me. Yeah, and we'll have you back eventually, and then
Yeah, love
see
to.
what you've been up to over the next couple years. But
Love to.
thank
And
you
good luck with
again.
your events and the rest of your
Yeah.
podcast. And,
Yep. For
hoping for your
sure.
blessings, brother. Take
All
care.
right. Well,
Good
shakas for the
talking to you.
cameras. Right on. We're out. Shout out to the Artist Groove Network. Aloha.
Aloha.